Welcome back to the Coach Cameron podcast. I'm here with the great Allen Chapman, a referee, two-time MLS Referee of the Year. Is that true? Is that what it is? Two times?
That is correct.
Just two times. That's it. That's all you could.
Two.
How many times you been in there?
I've been in the league since 2012.
Oh, geez. That's unacceptable. Only two times. Well, that is impressive. I've been following your career. So before we get on, talk about Allen Chapman and being quarantined and not being able to referee and being on his treadmill running sideways and stuff that I see on Facebook. Do you remember who paid for your first referee class?
Yeah, that was the great Dave Cameron.
That is correct. Actually, it would be it's actually Pond Valley Soccer League, but I was the director of coaching.
That's
and
right.
I got that class done and paid for like 25 people to do it, and I did it with you. And I remember I remember you telling me, you looked at me and was like, I'm gonna go all out on this, and you said I'm gonna go the highest level possible, and I'm just looking at you. I'm like, you're a nut job getting in with these referees.
I didn't think. To be honest, I never thought I'd get to where I'm at now. I thought, I was just going to get into it to help the local, leagues and the college level, the junior college, and I never thought I'd be where I'm at now. So that's the story you're telling. I don't know if it's true. So,
well, you obviously had the eye on the prize. I mean, you want to go far as you possibly could, and it's fascinating. So, but what blew me away is that you were known as the most abusive player towards referees, and
so yes,
okay. you were horrible. I won't tell all the stories because I don't want to embarrass you that bad, but you weren't too polite to these referees, and it's nice to know that you had to actually get in the middle of the soccer match as a referee as yourself and experience what those poor referees went through. And I hope you apologize to every referee you scarred from attacking and abusing with your verbal attacks on them as a player. Have you done that?
I have. I had to. When I first got registered and, had that itch to, go wherever I could with the refereeing career, I had to apologize, especially to the referee administrators and the people that really had the connections I needed to get wherever I wanted to be. And it was, just letting them know it wasn't personal. It wasn't, it was just, I'm a very passionate person. As a player and a coach, very passionate, and I still have that passion today for the game. And I think that's kind of what has driven me to the success that I've had as a referee, because I have that passion. I have that drive to, do my best.
Well, you certainly do. You were a great player. I don't know how many actually knew that, but you were an amazing soccer player. And I enjoyed playing with you. Now, the one thing that a lot of my listeners don't know is you used to throw up before every soccer match. And I know it was concerning to you, and like you had to ask the doctor, is this going to be a problem? It's going to rip my esophagus up and stuff like that. Do you throw up before MLS games?
Not before MLS games. I have some games where I dry heave.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually throw up. But I have this reflux issue that comes to fruition a few times, generally when it's more pressure or in a bigger match than normal. And
from what you told me,
go ahead. Just to clarify, I usually threw up at halftime.
Oh,
it wasn't before the game. I would take liquids in at halftime, and the hyper-reflux kind of, reacted, made me end up, throwing up the liquids that I just digested. So, and that's why I end up puking usually on the field or right in the trash pan as we left the locker room,
And
so
you've since got that kind of controlled. I mean,
for the most part, yeah.
How long was that going on in your life?
It was just, and normally when we played together for the Saguaros, that was the main time frame that I ended up having that issue. So it was 3-4 years, something like that.
Wow.
Obviously, during referee, there are some games where my teammates, my crew, assistant referees, they're looking at me and asking me, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine." It's just the system has to kind of go through its process, but never really impacted me physically or mentally. It was just like, all right, let's get this done with and let's go, type of thing. So
I have to tell you a story about me. So I had an acid reflux problem. So I was 230 pounds, believe it or not. I was huge.
Wow.
I'm 175 now. I'm like my game weight when I played. But I would eat so much that I would, every night for 6 months, I would wake up choking on my stomach acids from eating like a moron all day, every day. And I would go and throw up, and then it would stay fluttering. So eventually I had to sleep sitting. And I'm like, just looking at my poor wife, I'm like, what did she marry? I'm like, I'm this huge monster, and there was no end in sight. So I went to the doctor, and I asked the doctor, I'm like, hey, I've been throwing up every night. Can you check to see if I have any damage from my esophagus and help me with this acid reflux? So I did the balloon test and all that stuff. It came out negative, and he's like, you're fine. Here, just take these pills, and this will help you. I'm like, so take these pills, and I can eat however I want. He said, yes. There's our problem with our country and these freaking doctors. So I didn't want to do that, and I stumbled upon Facebook about fasting, and if you fast, it could take away that. So I'm like, oh, I'll just fast. And so I started fasting, and now I fast 16 to 20 hours a day, and I've never had it. Once I started fasting, it was like 3 days, the acid reflux was gone after 6 months of abusing myself. But I had a different problem. Yours was different than mine, but I always remember that if it wasn't for me actually having that problem, I would have never lost the weight, I guess.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, you and I look alike. Way too much.
No
so
hair yet.
Yeah,
But I do have my teeth. Do you still have your teeth?
No, they pop out all the time. But yeah, I actually got a new retainer, and
nice.
They look cleaner. So
awesome.
I just avoid smiling too much. But so before you became famous in your referee career, people a lot of people would call me Allen. I'm like, I'm not Allen. And they're like, oh, Allen coaches at Phoenix College. No, Dave Cameron coaches at Phoenix College. And
really?
Yeah. And just a long time ago, but you got me in a lot of trouble because the way you abuse referees, it was like and I was bad too. You abuse them, I abuse them, and it was like double the punishment. And so eventually I just shut up for a couple years, and they stopped messing with me. And then everything's fine. But you love me as a coach. I don't say a flipping word. Winning, losing, I don't say anything. I chill. I'm all like meditation.
I remember
one
game that I did of your guys' of the Phoenix College, and Marty Flores was your assistant.
Oh my gosh, he's crazy.
Oh, and I ended up calling the penalty. It was a crazy game. A couple penalties, I think both sides, both ways. I had a late one, and Marty came at me, and I was like, here's your red card, see ya. So, yeah, it's crazy times. It's unfortunate we have to go through that as former players and coaches, that we have to, over time, I think we understand that it's not worth it.
Right.
Or the going at referees, it only makes things worse. And it kind of snowballs to our players, and it attacks them, in their lives too. Because I've seen it. I think I grew up with passionate coaches, and it kind of, I kind of went with that when I got into coaching, and it really, it affects everyone around you. You know, not only your players, your parents, and everything. So hopefully we can, as a coaching player community, you know, we can kind of understand that it's not going to change the decision. For one, you know, whatever you say at the referee at that moment never ever changes that moment.
Right.
Right. So it's one of those things where I wish I had that back. Obviously, I love my passion. I love the drive that I had, but the way I reacted, I wish I could have handled it better.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I always look back and say, I could have handled myself better, you know, and my players that I coached would have maybe respected me more, and hopefully that would have impacted their lives going down the road. So
it certainly does. I mean, and that's life. We all make mistakes, and the goal is to improve, and that's why I'm a different coach every year. I'm trying to find harmony in my life in coaching and not focus on winning and focus on development. But at Phoenix College, I never blame the referee, ever. I actually had one blow up last year after the game with the referee. One of my kids, we were playing at Arizona Western, and my kid got dropped on his head. Should have been penalty kick. He's down, whatever. We let it go. I tell my assistant coaches to shut up. There's nothing we do about it. Just keep playing. Because the one thing I don't want to do with my kids is get them all animated and focus on that one play. I want them to focus. And we ended up losing 1-0. We didn't get the calls we should have, whatever. But then after the game, the referee came up to me, and, you know, I shake their hands, and it was done, moving on. And then the referee goes, the reason I didn't make that call, then I went nuts on him. And I always felt bad about that. But my goal is to say nothing. I always tell my players, I'm like, you never blame the referee. You never focus on that. You can solve the problem. And you got to prepare them for the worst case scenario, because there's always a way to win if you keep your emotions under control and be able to play. And the game is the game. You play according to what is given. And if I keep that as the focus, my players are so much better.
Yeah.
And you know, being at junior college, my kids are all Division I athletes. I mean, we just played GCU and we tied them 2-2. We're up 2-0 at halftime. We should have won by 4, but ended up 2-2. And that's an NCAA Division I team. I have Division I athletes on my team, but they have problems. That's why they're at the junior college. And a lot of it's emotional. And if I feed into that, it's not a good thing. So, yeah, what you're saying is definitely right. And you got to be very careful as a coach, as a referee, anyone a part of the game, to be very careful how you draw out certain emotions and stuff and make it more of a teachable environment. But it's led by the coaches. Coaches have to take control of what they can control, which is their kids.
And referees have a part in that as well. You know, for me, it helped being a former player, being a coach, understanding emotions and how to maybe address players. So that's kind of separated me from other referees that don't have that playing or coaching experience. You know, I'm going to make mistakes as a referee, but understanding players' emotion and the impact on the game, you know, just reminding them, hey, I'm human. I make mistakes. But I'm going to work hard to make sure I don't make another mistake, you know, or, you know, try to remind them, almost coach them in some aspect. Hey, you know, don't let your emotions take control of you. You know, let's think about the next play, you know, because if you're still worrying about previous play or, you know, a decision you didn't get, you're done. You know, you're so focused on the past and not the present that you're not performing, you know, the way you should be. You know, so referees have a part to hopefully get players to understand that we make mistakes, but, you know, that we're going to try to, you know, not make that next mistake, you know, type of thing. So it's, go ahead.
Well, I just want to move on and start talking about officials, how we're growing officials in the game and how we're actually ruining them at the youth age. And I don't coach anymore. I don't coach youth. I'm a parent, and my son plays for Tuzos, and I love it. coaching's in Spanish. Parents are screaming Spanish. My kid's only white kid, and he's a redhead to boot, so they call him the El Rojo. And so the coach wanted me to help him. I'm like, listen, just let me be with the parents. Let me argue with the parents. Let me protect you from that sideline. So every time I'm on the sideline, I'm literally fighting with the parents about, because they're like so animated about every little thing. And you'll like this. So you know Chris Hauser. So Chris Hauser's refereeing my son's game, and he's doing a good job. I think his son is on an AR and all this stuff, and I'm sitting in between all the Hispanic families, and they're complaining. We're up by like 3 or 4, and Chris Hauser calls a penalty kick. It should have been a penalty kick. Slide tackle him from behind. It should have been a red card, actually, but Chris was nice enough to. Oh, the double jeopardy didn't apply, so it was a yellow.
Okay.
So it was a penalty kick, and my parents are going nuts. I'm like, so I'm screaming at them. I'm like, shut up! What are you talking about? I'm like, one, do you really not want a penalty kick? So our goalkeeper can't have that experience. You're up by 3 or 4 or whatever it was, and you're denying them that, and you're yelling at Chris out. That referee has played at a higher level than any of these kids on this field will ever achieve. I'm like, do you even know who that is? I'm like, so I fight with parents nonstop, and it's gotten crazy because as another game we're playing the Rising, and it was the ugliest game because you know how Tuzos, Hispanics, they can play beautiful soccer, and man, they can play ugly soccer. They're banging the ball down the field, just everything. They have some fast forwards, and they just kept going there. My son's playing the 10, and they keep bypassing him. And I'm talking to the parents. I'm pulling my kid off this team. Like, what are we talking about? I'm like, I came here to play Mexican soccer, and this is flipping Gilbert Soccer Club. I'm like, I can go Gilbert right now. I'm like, this is garbage. And they were just like, beside this, I'm like, I came to play with Hispanics. This isn't soccer. I'm like, I want to play. I don't care if we win. I want my son to touch the ball. And it changed. Because if you can influence the dang parents, because every time they say something stupid, I'm all over them. I'm surprised I haven't got punched out yet. But I feel like I can affect my little area with that one team just being a dad more so than coaching. Because they separate us. So the coaches on that side, parents on the other. I hate that. So anyway, so what's going on with development of the young ones to develop into referees? I mean, you started late, but what's going on differently in this country? How can we develop referees so we don't lose so many?
Well, oh my goodness, it's a constant battle, right? It's a big question that never ends. I don't think anyone has the right answer. We have ideas. It's dealing with parents and coaches. Is obviously one of the issues. Kids being too young, not ready to actually referee is another issue. It's for me, in an ideal world, it's getting these parents that are yelling at these referees, getting them on the field. Because if they're that passionate and they're that motivated so what's the word?
They're so committed to they want to win so bad.
Yeah, and I think that's you. If I could find people, I was that person. I was passionate as a parent, coach, player. If you could use that in a way that can change the game, and it takes people to realize, nothing's going to change unless I do something about it. We have a bunch of critics, oh, you guys are horrible, and you whatever, this game's above you. Well, that's not going to solve anything, and that's why for me, I'm like, shoot, if I can make a difference, I could have stayed coaching. I could have done pretty well, I think, in the coaching world. I'm like, we need more people to say, you know what, nothing's going to change unless I get involved. So make that jump, become a referee. As a coach, if you don't want to referee, how do I communicate with these referees to help them? How can I educate them maybe see the game the way it needs to be sent. Not that I'm trying to persuade them to get the next decision or to, get an advantage. But how do I help these referees understand the importance of this game? Because most of the referees are just either they haven't played the game or they don't have the confidence to deal with the difficult situations.
Yeah,
it's just a big problem that I don't think there's, no one has the right solution. I have some ideas. For me, it's getting those players, and for me, it helped me as a player. I'm just, as a coach, right, having a different perspective of the game would only help players and coaches become better players and coaches, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you knew the rules, like I didn't know the laws of the game when I played or coached. I knew the game. I knew what was a foul, what was a penalty, but I didn't know the interpretation of like the offside decision.
Right.
I didn't fully understand the denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity either. Everyone yelled last man, but there's so many different things you have to look at, like distance to goal or direction to goal, before you end up giving a red card. So there's so many things that players and coaches don't know that referees do know. And if you could learn that, it would only help you as a coach and a player. So for me, I'm driven by getting former players and coaches into the refereeing world, and I think it turned out well for me. Obviously, I make a good living now. Never thought I'd be able to make a living refereeing, but I make more than some of the MLS lower level pay players. So the possibilities to make a living refereeing is there. So for me, it's trying to inspire guys that have played it, have that feeling, because refereeing, you have to have a little bit of a feel for the game. It's not all black and white. It's not black. There's a lot of gray. And the U.S. Soccer does their best as far as trying to educate the youth. The local states do their best, but they don't have the time or the money to really invest into making the referees better. There are certain people, like Todd Sergi does, in my opinion. He does a better job. He brings myself and some of the professional referees in to the state frequently, to help develop the referees. So there are things going on that are there to help develop the referees. I think it can always improve, So long story short, it is a long story. It's an uphill battle, but it's worth it. And I think if we want to make the game beautiful, we all have to do our part. Everyone has to do their part. The coaches, the players, the referees, the spectators, parents, they have a role to play in order to make this better for everyone. So
I was in Las Vegas recruiting, and before the game, I'm watching Las Vegas Premier versus Tuzos of all teams. But before that game, there was a girls' game. There was a club from Vegas and a club from California, and this coach from Vegas, and he's a license, whatever, I don't know what he is, but he wouldn't shut his freaking mouth, and it was so annoying to listen to. I did a podcast about him, actually. I call him out, and that's kind of what I do. I use this podcast to call out everyone being stupid with youth sports. He was literally, every time this referee made a call, he complained. Every freaking time. And when it went in his favor, he's like, he would be like, "Oh, great call, referee. What are you doing, referee? That's not offside." And he's nowhere near the play. And he just wouldn't shut up. And I'm like, telling the girls what to do, everything. Turn, all this stuff. And he would not shut up. I'm like, and he stood up the whole time. He had to be like, I don't know, 51. and that they eventually won. I think 1-0, and and he's talking to parents. Parents are loving him. I'm like, I wanted to go up to him. I wish I did, and just say, "You are an embarrassment to the game." I just want to go off, but I'm sure it would have been a fist fight. But it's so bad that there's so many people like that abusing the game, not allowing the players to learn and make decisions on their own because it's going to be required someday. And they're like U17 and trying to manipulate the referee on every call. And the poor guy on the other side, he's staying quiet and just giving direction as needed and stuff like that. And he has a deal with him. And you could see him getting like angry and didn't know what to do. And, and that's kind of what it is. And that needs to stop. I mean, we got to get the coaches to shut up. It's a player's game. It's not. We need to call coaches managers. I call myself manager now. I'm not a coach. I'm a manager. I manage emotions. I make sure they go to class. I make sure they're healthy. They have access to soccer balls and facilities. And I give them games. That's it. And then I try to control the environment. I produce film and all that stuff. Soccer is about the players. Talent will find a way. Coaches screw it up, and
I agree.
it is goofy. And the thing is, I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago. The best soccer my team's played is me shutting up. I didn't say a freaking word all season. We won the conference title, which is rare. That's usually Yavapai or Pima, and no other Maricopa schools won it. We've won it 3 times, but this year we won it outright, and we were the number 1 seed. But I didn't say a freaking word. It doesn't need to be said. You can do that before, but at the game, it's their test, and it is unfortunate. But besides that, we can talk about that all day. So the MLS final that you were the center referee for. So
which one?
The last one. So in Seattle, and you're the center from Arizona, even though you're living in Utah. But Greg Vanny's the coach of the Canadian Toronto FC, and he's from Arizona. Mike Raboska's there, and he was actually assistant coach at Phoenix College, but he's from Arizona, Desert Vista high school coach. And then on the other side, or no, even on that team, they had an Arizona player. They had Leroy De Leon's kid, Nicky.
Yeah, Nick De Leon, yeah.
There's so many Arizona people representing that game, which was so cool. And it's kind of interesting how Arizona is, we're pretty decent size, but so many Arizonans are affecting the game and a part of the game, which is pretty cool to witness. I need to get Mike Raboska on. His son played at Yavapai. He actually sent me text and say, "Hey, just let you know, my son's gonna be playing at Yavapai." I'm like, "Dude, it's okay, man. It's all right." And then we beat him twice. So, it's a small world. So, how many MLS games championships have you done?
Well, last year I had 2. I had the Open Cup final and the MLS Cup.
That's right.
And then in 2017 I did the final as well, and it was the same 2 teams. It was Toronto versus Seattle, but it was in Toronto. So it was kind of weird. We it was basically the same. It was the same 2 teams and myself on the 2 finals. Because the year before it was Portland and Atlanta. And then in 2016, I was the 4th official on the Toronto-Seattle first MLS Cup. 2016, which Seattle ended up winning from kicks from the mark.
Mm-hmm.
And the very next year in 17, I was the center referee for the same 2 teams, and Toronto ended up winning that. And then, 2 years later, it's the same 2 teams, and then I ended up being the referee on that. So it was pretty weird. But yeah, Greg, I remember refereeing Mike when he was at Desert Vista. He didn't like me very much. But he's a great guy. Every time I see him, we say hello and stuff. So it's crazy. It is. It's like, you never would have thought back when I was refereeing Desert Vista versus whoever, and Mike's yelling at me, and the next time I see him, we're in the MLS. It's like you remember me? It's like, holy cow! It's like, it's crazy how things can can develop over time, especially guys that really have the ability to do whatever, coach, play, referee. The opportunities now are unreal. You look at the second division USL, there's so many teams now. So there's and now we're just adding more teams to MLS. Hopefully we get started after this epidemic. But we got Nashville this year with Miami, and then next year we had 2 more teams with Austin. Yep. Austin's coming in the league with Charlotte, and then Sacramento and St. Louis the year after that. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for coaches, players, referees. So it's a good time to be in the U.S.
Yeah.
To be within the game. So.
Well, let's talk about your age.
Okay.
So we're the same age, except you're going to be. Well, you're turning 46 in August.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be 46.
What's the average? I mean, what's the life expectancy for a referee at your level?
So it's between 45 and 50. That's when people tend to not be able to pass the fitness test, and that's basically generally what prevents referees from continuing is the fitness test.
What is the fitness test? What is it?
So the fitness test currently is for referees. It's different for the assistant referees and referees, but for referees we have a 40-meter sprint that we have to cover in 6 seconds.
Okay.
There's 6 of those, and you only get one. If you fail twice, you're done. You can't even continue to an interval test. So you get 45 seconds to a minute recovery between the sprints. So usually in a small group, you sprint, and we have these gates, and you got to run 40 meters in 6 seconds, and then you just walk back around and do it. You have six that you have to pass. And then you get like an 8-minute recovery, and then we do an interval test where we run. It's run 75 meters in 15 seconds. Okay, and then you walk 25 meters in 18 seconds, and you repeat that 40 times.
Oh, geez.
40 times you do that, which is 10 laps. So it's 4 intervals per lap. You get, again, you only get one warning. You have like these gates that you have to be in on the sprint, and then you can't start early. You have to, wait for the whistle to blow to start your run once you finish your walk. So you get one warning. Your second warning, you're done.
Is that available on Google, or do I need to write this down? Because I
want
to be.
It's under FIFA.
Okay.
It's on FIFA. It's the FIFA test, so you can look it up through the FIFA website.
Okay. Because my goal is to have referee fitness at the MLS level or FIFA level.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I just started running again.
Okay.
And so speaking of longevity, I don't know what you do for your health and stuff. I'm like way into like all this stuff. So in addition to fasting, which I've now learned I listen to Joe Rogan podcast, so I listen to all these doctors and all this stuff about fasting, and they say for men it's different from women. So besides weight loss and stuff, you can actually grow muscle from fasting, and when you don't have anything in your stomach, because your body doesn't stop working, your body starts repairing it. But if you always have stuff in your stomach, that's the number one thing your body's gonna do. It's gonna deal with digestion. But if you're not digesting, your body's repairing cells in your body. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. And then the Wim Hof method of doing the cold showers and stuff, because when you take, especially where you're at in Utah, like I have a cold plunge at work, so that's fortunate for me. But I'll take a cold shower every day because I'm locked up in my house. And you're kind of like freaking out, and then you take the cold shower as long as possible. I don't even take a hot shower anymore. You produce a little bit of adrenaline. So it's just a little bit. So it's like you're manipulating your lymphatic system. So like if you get, how you get scared and you have adrenaline pop through your body and you're like, you react differently. Women can lift a car off a child or something like that. So give you
right.
So if you produce a little bit of adrenaline every day for the rest of your life, you'll heal your body and you'll basically, it's legal steroids. So I've been doing that for almost a year and a half, and I was doing it for like depression and some other things. Just, I'm in my 40s, we all go through it where, life's tough or whatever.
Right.
And it's done amazing things for me. Like I ran, I think 5 miles in the mountains yesterday. I haven't ran 5 miles ever. I never run. Like long distance, I hated it. I was a sprinter, as you know. I mean, at Loyola,
I'm the same.
Loyola Marymount University, they had the Cooper test, and you had to do it within 12 minutes. I couldn't do it. And so you had to get up at 5 a.m. every day and run the test so you beat it. Well, one day, all this fog came in, and you couldn't see like 10 feet in front of you. So I cheated. I went and I ran across, and I did that twice, and I hold the record today with a 9:07 run, which will never be beaten, except I cheated. So,
right.
But so are you doing anything unique that, other than diet and stuff to make sure you have a long career as a referee in the center?
Yeah. So for me, it's funny that you said fasting because I don't eat breakfast normally. So I break my fast, like around 12, 1 o'clock. And I usually get my workout in before that, and I'll replenish myself after my workout. So that's interesting that, it'd be interesting to know more about the fasting and the adrenaline. I know, like when we go to our camps, we have camps, obviously right now without no traveling, we don't do them, but we would go to our referee meetings with pro, twice to 3 times a month, depending on the month. So we would go to, when we're in Dallas, we're right near SMU. So we'd use their facilities, and they have an ice bath and a hot bath for us to use, and I love the ice bath. I would stay in there sometimes, they said 7 minutes max. I'd do that. After the first, 2 minutes, you're just like bone crushing, feeling, but after that you feel good. So for me, it's, taking care of my body. The off season, I can't let myself go. Like this last off season, being prepared for the fitness test is almost as crucial as being prepared for a game, because if I can't pass the fitness test, then I can't referee games. And that's, if once you fail twice with our collective bargaining agreement, if you fail the fitness test twice, you're done. So your salary's out. You're done. No game fees, all that. So it's doing something. I invested in a gym in my house. Got a treadmill, got a Smith's machine, got dumbbells, got everything I need. Especially here in Utah during the winter, trying to get outside is almost impossible. So I have what I need to do something. And I tell young referees, people that are asking for my advice, do something each day. Don't kill yourself. You don't have to go do, hard workouts every day of the week, because then you're going to dread it. You're not going to love it, right? So you got to find something that you love. For me, it's, find a pace. If I'm running on my treadmill, find a pace that I enjoy, that, I'm getting a workout, but I'm not killing myself, something that, I can do tomorrow if I needed to. Do some strength training. Obviously, we have sports scientists that give us our workout. Even currently, I have a workout that I have to do today that I have yet to do because I've been distracted with other things. But, do something. And then when it comes to nutrition, it's portion control, number one. We were kind of on that plant-based, but I'm kind of I throw some protein in there occasionally during the week, some chicken, some steak. But
not to cut you off, but speaking of diet, I remember we were at Sasha Hunter's house, I think, after a baby blessing or something. I don't know. And you would take cookies or something, and I don't know what you did. Put it in milk. What was that you did? Was weird.
Well, for cake, I like to just put milk,
cake, yeah.
Cake with milk. It was like cereal for me. Yeah.
That was disgusting.
You always drink milk after a cake. Well, for me, I did. I loved, I have a sweet tooth. I wouldn't deny it. That's one thing that I have to control. But whenever I had cookies or ice cream, I loved it with whether it's ice cream or milk, but I always grew up back in New Mexico. It was like, just throw your cake in a cup and add milk to it because it's just delicious for me. So that's one of the battles I always have is my sweet tooth, trying to. And my wife does a good job of keeping that stuff out of the house. Obviously, we've got some teenagers that make it a little bit more difficult. They can eat whatever they want. So here at our house, it's a constant battle trying to keep the junk away and have healthier options. So,
well, I'm not gonna keep you too much longer. I got kids that are like, they need the computer, and I get it. Everyone's online and everything. But yeah, can we do this again? Like when we get out of this coronavirus crap we're in?
Yeah.
So this'll air tomorrow, and so glad you actually came on on short notice. So this is Coach Cameron with the great Allen Chapman. Referee.
You can eliminate the great. Just
the average Allen Chapman MLS Referee of the Year winner. So thank you so much, Allen, and I'm looking forward to having you on again.
Anytime, Dave. My pleasure, buddy.
Thanks.